Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Borderwise and welcome back to From the Depths Subscribercraft Review! And for the first time in a long time, we are doing two craft in one video, because the next craft on our list is small enough that it can be reviewed with a friend, and that's very nice indeed. And before we get into it, just a little reminder again, because I keep having to remind people that submissions for the series are closed. I'm not accepting any more, now or forevermore pretty much, so please don't ask. And yeah, I know that's a bummer, that's just how it is. It's taken me almost 2 years to get as far on the list as I have now. So, with that sad news out of the way, what are we reviewing today? So, over here we have the next thing on our list, which is the STWH Jackal by StickWhiskers. And it comes in at a very reasonable 131,820 materials. It's not a particularly large craft, which is why it's getting reviewed along with something further down the list. So, sorry if this is a surprise, but this is the Roanapur. Yeah, by Z02D2, and I'm just going to call you Zod for now, because, excuse you, I didn't tell you to move. Naughty, naughty. Must have an ACB on it somewhere. So, this is a similar price range to the Jackal. 155,940 materials, a little bit more expensive, a little bit bigger. And but overall, reviewing these two things side by side, it's quite fun, because the Roanapur... there's a number of things that the Roanapur does that the Jackal does not, and then it just kind of misses the mark on something. Basically, they both strike me as similar. Perhaps the Roanapur is a little bit more advanced in terms of construction, but overall they're broadly on the same level for various reasons. So let's get into it. So usual story, we'll start with the nice stuff first. And we'll start with the Jackal, because this is the Jackal's day, darn it. Let's have a look at this thing. It's quite boxy, quite square. Got exposed props on the back. It's got this weak keel. It's very square, very boxy, because this is a cube-based game. It's got recoil absorbers poking out of the, what do we call it? Exposed repair bots. I just noticed. This is not a good idea. These are delicate and expensive, by the way. How did I miss that before? Jeez. It's got a little thing to go in here. Also not a good idea to... I don't know. Aesthetically, this is pretty sweet, but practically not so much. Portholes. I keep forgetting these exist. But, okay, so what's the first thing? Well, these things have pretty... not amazing, but pretty decent heat shells. So once you jack it up to about 300 millimeters, this is what we got. Not bad. This is a decent shell, and it's actually... oh yeah, worth keeping in mind that several updates, quite a few updates have happened in between these things being sent to me and with me actually reviewing them, usual story. So they're not optimized for the game as it is now, even if they were beforehand. So be nice people, and that's directed at myself as well. So it's got heat shells, and you can't really go wrong with heat. It's hard to do it badly. Inertial fuse isn't necessary these days for heat, unless you're dealing with actually strong shields, because once in a blue moon, shields do something, and an IF can make the difference for that. So that's... what the... oh, this is glass, right. I was thinking, what the hell, this is open? Nah, it isn't. Okay, so I'm on the wrong ship. Get on the Jackal, please. So we can go here, and there's a little hole, and you drop, and you come out, and that's very nice. And what else we got? So it's got simple weapons, and simple weapons are still pretty darn good. They have been changed, as has been mentioned before. It's got these casemate guns. They're less overpowered now. They don't get a bonus to HE damage, which frankly made them ridiculous along with the APS changes. And they're more expensive, they're more durable, but they also use this ammo, which is very, very handy indeed. You could possibly stick a few more of them on this deck, but as I mentioned before, they are kind of expensive. And this, you don't need to get them centered on, you don't need the local weapon controller square under them in order for them to be controlled, by the way, which is very convenient. And so yeah, this thing has, I actually haven't tested this thing against aircraft. It would probably be a good idea. Let's do that, actually. So, Roanapur, you're gonna go away for a hot second. And you can broadside, and then let's chuck some planes at you. So, 1, 2, 3. There we go, there's the ack going. Oh, it does. Ooh, hello. Actually, that was mostly the main guns doing that. Nope, there we go, there we go. See, pretty decent against aircraft. Just the main guns are already pretty decent at it. Well, fair enough. Dusters are not hard to shoot down because they've got exposed ammo barrels on their underside. But yeah, that's not bad at all. What else? So I mentioned the heat. It also has, and this is something I've never really touched on, for the purposes of heat, and particularly when dealing with infrared missiles, having engine exhausts below the waterline is actually a pretty good idea. So this is a plus in my book. It doesn't necessarily make sense because, like, if From the Depths worked on real-life physics, I don't think exhaust would work like this, because the water would stop the exhaust tubes from getting out. That might be too hard to code, though. And also might be... I don't know, it means that the split second something is sinking, like its engine short out, and that's no good. But yeah, that's a plus in my book. It's got a stone AI compartment as well. It's like... Armor on the whole is not amazing. It's got spaced armor, which is a good thing. It means it's, well, at least along here, along this bulge here, it's got spaced armor, which means it's better against heat and hesh than it otherwise would be. And stone compartment here, this might not seem like a major deal, but this is something that's easy to forget. EMP is one of those things that takes a while for you to remember that it's a thing, and just having your AI in a stone box really, really helps. So yeah, this is a good thing. And I originally thought was gonna, oh dear, there's wasted space in here. It's not really. This is a... Like, I would never have occurred to me that to stick an air pump in an AI compartment to make use of what space you have in it. I'm not saying it's a good idea, or necessarily a bad one, it's just it never would have occurred to me. So, hell, just, like, if it works, it works. And if you need some more buoyancy, why not? So, yeah, what else? Spaced armor. And fortunately, that's about it for the outright, objectively positive things I can talk about with the Jackal. There's a lot that's wrong with it. It's got pretty anchors. That's nice. And yeah, so moving on to the Roanapur. So this is unfortunately one of those reviews in which I'm going to spend a long time just pointing out everything wrong with the thing. So let's get on the Roanapur. So, the Roanapur. It's got missiles, which already, like, I've tested these two ships against each other, and the mere addition of missiles makes a huge difference. You tend to find that craft with missiles tend to do a lot better against craft that don't have them, and which don't have decent missile defense. So, I don't want to say missiles are an equalizer, they're more like an unequalizer. If you've got one craft that doesn't have them, and one craft which does, particularly at this price range, like 155,000 materials. Back in the day, it would have been pretty expensive. These days, what with the cost increases to missiles and APS, that's actually pretty cheap. It's to me, I feel like there's a lot of campaign. I just noticed there's heavy armor on the front of this. Why is there heavy armor on the front of this? These are the loneliest heavy armor pieces I've ever seen. Why are they here? I always get distracted, but yeah, there's a lot of there's more than a few campaign ships actually, which are over 1 million material cost. And basically the cost of everything has gone up, and that's basically so the price range, what is cheap and what isn't cheap, has just changed generally. So yeah, that's enough about that. So it has missiles, and missiles are kind of handy to have. Hesh, it has Hesh shells. So these things, I think it's, what is it? I think it's these. Let's just do this. rack these, I believe. Yep, those are Hesh. And that's another Hesh. Oh no, is that Hesh or Heat? Yep, that's what's that? And that's a Disruptor. See, the sad thing about the Roanapur is that back in the day, this would have been a pretty meta ship. But this is, I think, more so than the Jackal, which is saying something. This has kind of been, not crippled, but just hammered by the updates that have happened, because this Disruptor gun in the front, and this is a Disruptor APS gun, so it's got this, and it's not badly set up, by the way, for a Disruptor gun. It's got the conduit. In fact, these days, this is a better Disruptor, like, gun. Like, yeah, you don't really need accuracy buffs to Disruptors anymore, because they're accurate enough. They're also very quick. And this is just wood, it just goes through shields and pops them and just all that stuff. It's also, these days, almost completely unnecessary. So, Disruptors are really, they're optional. You do not need them for the most part, with shields being the way they are now. And, like, you're better off using a different kind of shell. Oh yeah, this missing something. No, that's deliberate. Interesting. Having stuff, having sensors on your turret sometimes makes you do wacky things. Yeah, I do like this turret in particular. It's kind of nice and armored. Got a nice little rangefinder perched on it. Twin turrets. I do like twin turrets that look like this, even though what would arguably be a better idea is having a single APS, a single firing piece, with enough gauge increases to make a 2-barrel 150mm gun. That would probably be more efficient, but I don't know, I kind of like this. Like, if you really want to get the meta going, get your meta on, I guess I could say, you do it that way, but I kind of like this. I like how it looks. That extra gap, that space in the middle just makes it look better, I think. Purely aesthetics, I'm talking about. Okay, so, and here is something that the Roanapur does. Darn it. Darn it. Darn it. Let's try it again. So here's something the Roanapur does that the Jackal does not, which is a good idea. More on that later. Huh? Oh. Does it actually? Am I going crazy? Did I imagine this? Ah, right. It has 1 turret out of 3 armored. Oh god, that Tetris. But yeah, so, that's something kind of double whammy. Like, neither of these craft have all their turrets armored, and by that I mean having armor blocks on the turret itself. So, yeah, that's worth talking about right now. I might skip over that later, but this guy does not have armored turrets, and the Roanapur over here, 3 out of the 4 main guns, no, sorry, 2 out of the 3 main guns don't have turrets either, so you see what you've got in here is you've instead got this kind of compartment for it, and it just sits in it. This, I find, is not as good, and I'm not sure why that is. Just having an armored turret rather than having it just a compartment put around it, just seems to make it more survivable, and I'm not sure how that works. It might be because the thing is smaller and harder to hit, and it also takes up less space. If this armored turret would take up less space if you just put blocks around it. So that's so it gets 1 mark for having an armored turret in the back here. It gets -2 for the other ones not being armored. So yeah, that's a problem. It also has spall liner completely by accident. So since the insides are mostly made of wood, this thing handles, well, except for this bit, Jesus. Right next to the turret, not so good. But generally, this thing handles Hesh decently well. Like, it's the gaps in there. Like, I'm pretty sure that wasn't deliberate. It doesn't feel deliberate. Because it's kind of here and there, and occasionally not there. So, yeah, it's just like using wood, and you can tell the difference just how bigger the Roanapur is than the Jackal. It's just that if you use cheap structural materials like wood and stone, you can make your craft a lot bigger, and being big helps with survival quite a bit. So yeah, that is a handy thing. The use of wood actually is a good thing in this case. It does get peeled off easily, but it's cheap and it's not hard to repair. And what else? It also has, and I was just building something like this just the other day, it has offset radars. This I am very chuffed with because it's something that I do, or I try to do when I remember and when it's feasible. This is a very cunning way. It's almost an exploit, really, because these things, as I mentioned before, they need to be able to check in all, 5 directions in order to see everything. So forward, left, right, back, and up. And this is done on a line, so it's just a line projected out over here. This blocks it, but this does not. And so what that means is that if you've offset them like this, both of these radars can see in all directions, and also means you have a redundant radar. So if this one gets destroyed, you've still got one, and this is basically how you do radar Tetris, or sensor Tetris, I guess. So that is a good touch, and yeah. Having this on the inside here, this is less good, especially since there's glass over here, and glass is pathetically easy to break. But I guess I'm meant to be doing the pros first. Oh yeah, so mentioning the wood as well, you'll notice this thing doesn't have roll props or anything like that. That is one of the reasons why wood is a good idea. It's a free, well, almost free, it's cheap bulking out of the ship, making it wider, and generally with buoyant materials, especially since this thing has a metal deck, that's, I think, 2 meters thick, yeah. Whoa, more than that. Wood, metal, metal. Whoa, this thing's deck this is actually excessive slightly. 2 meters thick is usually good for deck armor, unless you're really anticipating getting shot from above. But yeah, so wood there, a metal deck, and just sticking buoyant material on the sides of a craft can help tremendously with keeping it afloat and also keeping it stable, because the more it rolls to one side, the more it gets pushed up by buoyant material. So that is actually a good plan. It also functions as a plate of armor. You just have to be careful that if this wood gets blown off, that it doesn't then decide to roll over. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so now that we've gotten the positive stuff out of the way, let's talk quickly about how these craft could do some things a bit better. So, let's jump onto the... what do you call it? Let's go to the fight. And the custom battle, by the way, this is buggy as hell, so if you're preparing for a tournament, by the way, do not use the custom battle setup, or at the very least, don't try and put tournament rules in there, because this thing is kind of bad at telling where and things are and what they're doing. So let's spawn in the Jackal and the Roanapur. And yeah, let's deploy guard and start. And we'll get to see. I'm going to try and show these things fighting each other a bit more. And so we'll zero in on the Jackal first, because lots of things get highlighted with this immediately. And one of them is, yeah, see, it almost shot itself right there. In fact, yep, almost. Did it do it? Whoa, there it did, yeah. So you see right here, what the heck happened there? Oh, that must have been the disruptor shell. So you see here, these turrets, this turret's already stuck, that's not good. Do stick firing restrictions on your turret blocks and your firing pieces, people, otherwise this happens. This gun, I don't think is ever going to fire, because the Jackal turns broadside right, it's stuck on the left, and that's bad. Also, missile defense. These missiles aren't particularly strong, but they do hurt a bit. Let's see if it happens. That's a lot of missiles. A small missile spam is very strong. Ah, it got lucky this time. Often what happens... Oh, here we go. Here we go. It's gonna happen. Gonna happen. So you'll notice that... yes, there we go. You'll notice that the Jackal has all its sensors, all kind of... Well, most of them, kind of clumped up on that tower, on the superstructure. It's got more. It has a tracker here that gets destroyed immediately. And it's got two 90-degree radars that are kind of stuck in the middle here. And often, these are the only ones left, because these are the only ones with adequate defense that they're low down on the hull. These get destroyed really easily, so I've had problems with that myself. The Stahl Slung has this problem, because most of its sensors are kind of grouped up on a single point. That is a bad idea. That is a very, very bad idea, particularly if you're fighting anything that has missiles, which can lock onto the superstructure and hit it 100% of the time, and especially if they've got EMP. The Roanapur does not have EMP, but if it did, these would die so quickly. So you'll see just in how the Jackal's aiming now, it's blinded. It has been blinded immediately, and that's it. The fight's over already. So yeah, the other thing to talk about is that easily blinded. And the penetration metric of the heat guns, you'll remember it was around about 10. That's okay, but really you want to shoot for something like 18 or 20, because that'll actually get it through multiple layers of heavy armor, and it's one of the reasons why heat is so strong, is that it just can pass straight through it, and particularly on a ship this cheap, that gives it a vital edge against stuff that's bigger and more dangerous, so it needs more penetration. And the other thing is that it wasn't shooting particularly accurately to begin with because it has too many sensors, so it doesn't have enough general processing power. So I should just get out of here and show you this in the designer again. So let's go here, and go here, show you on the Jackal itself. So Jackal. So we go here, and you go look up here. Mainframe does not have enough processing power, so detection rate reduced to 83.3 blah 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 %. That's already an issue, so this thing is not seeing things properly, even before its sensors get blown off. So see, you hear this thing, this is very exposed, and just it gets disabled too easily. And speaking of that, in my testing so far, I have not seen this stick keel get blown off, but I'm guessing the first time you send this thing against torpedo heavy craft, it's going to capsize, because this, so imagine a big torpedo coming in here, and it just takes the lead off. So that's messed with it. So let's go here. See what happens. So that Marauder's invulnerable, just so you can see here. Are you gonna keel over? It might not even, like, either way, if the Jackal... Oh wait, is it gonna roll? It doesn't roll, actually. That's interesting. Huh. StickWhiskers, it turns out you don't need that keel at all. What happens if I think it's actually gone a lot faster thanks to that. So, I was wrong, but I was right. So you don't need the keel at all, StickWhiskers. We just learned something today. Are you going to survive this? Yes, you are. To its credit, those guns are pretty strong. It's just that, yeah, strong guns aren't enough. You need to be able to keep them alive for a while. Okay, where were we? Stick keel. Ah, the engine! So I mentioned before that the exhaust down here, this is a good idea to stick it out here. These engines and Thank goodness I did an engine tutorial the other day, because otherwise I wouldn't have spotted this. This is not optimal. So, StickWhiskers, your homework is to go look at the useful fuel engine platform, because mixing superchargers, not very helpful. Only stick them in when you don't need them. Because you have the room to make an inline turbo engine, and these turbochargers are not externally vented. These are currently acting as exhausts, and they're not really doing anything. So, it's like these actually aren't doing anything. You see 0 gas used by this turbocharger to increase the carburetor efficiency by 1. So they're helping a bit, but not as much as they could. So yeah, so the engine needs work. You have the space for it, and that's just, yeah, engine do-over needed. And the ammunition is too close to the engine. So you got 2 layers of metal in here, and you have a whole bunch of ammo blocks. By the way, you could replace these with bigger ammo blocks like this. And I think that's not a major issue because, well, not a major criticism really, because this craft was built before these larger ammo boxes were available. So that's a thing. But in any case, 3, I'm trying to remember whether the whole 3 meters away thing. I think the explosions by these aren't as strong as they used to be, but this much ammo, I think we'll be able to reach the engines from... Actually, let's just test that. Let us test that. So, here we go. Here we go. Oh, yeah, where is it? Here it is. And let's go. So I'm going to be a cheeky person, and I'm going to blow this thing's engines up. What side was it on? It was on the... Ah! Now we're tipping over. Did need the keel after all. Tee-hee. Oh, that's because I've ruined the buoyancy. My bad. My bad. No. Down, Rambot. Rambot, get in there. Rambot! Oh, Rambot handles like a fat pig in mud. Okay. I'm gonna blow these up. We're gonna see if the engine dies. Almost. Let's see here. Did it take out a generator? No, the engine survived. Barely. Barely, barely. But it survived. Interesting. Ah, but here's the other thing. So the engine is a bit too close to the ammo. Let's load you in again, for justice's sake. So you'll notice the engine is also a bit too close to a front turret. So these turrets are way too close together. Like... Oh yeah, I was just looking at my notes and being confused. So these turrets, you'll notice, are explosive. Also, the Tetris is not great. They're not circular, unarmored, and they're very close to each other and very close to the engines. Why is that a bad thing? Well, it's a bad thing because this. So go disable, oh, disable. There we go. There we go. There we go. We get down, Rambot. Get your fat booty down there. There we go. Jeez, I really... This is one of the reasons I do not like capturing things in Fortaleza, because Rambot does not control well. So here, delicious, juicy turret blocks, hiding behind, unarmored, hiding behind 1 layer of metal on the deck. And engines over there, and other turrets over there. What happens when I blow this up? I said, what happens when I blow this up? You'll notice that both turrets are gone, and the engines are crippled. Yes, that's 2 engines that are completely offline, and we're sinking. And the back two aren't any better, by the way. So, go here. What is behind here? There's ammo. Let's see, let's go down here. And so this is always worth testing beforehand. Is how badly does my ship blow itself up? So yep, when these things are full of ammo, if one turret gets popped, they both get popped. And it seems the ammo storage survived here, 2 layers of metal helped there. And it's just, yeah, this is a very volatile craft. Especially against, if a heat or hair shell lands on the deck, this thing is dead. It is straight up dead, yo. I'm hit with the kids. And what else? Yeah, so also the problem is that the deck armor is too thin, as you can see, it's only 1 layer of metal. I tend to find that deck armor, you're better off using multiple layers of weaker, more buoyant materials, so either wood or alloy, depending on what your budget is, rather than a single layer of metal. Simply because metal is not buoyant, it'll make your craft top heavy, and also because a single layer of metal doesn't actually help that much, I find. Like, yeah, it just doesn't. Like, as soon as one block is destroyed, that's it. There's a hole. There's a holy hole in your shippy ship. So, Jackal needs work. That's basically all the negative things I have to say about it. But, yeah, so now back to the Roanapur. Similar but different errors in the Roanapur. So, one of the problems is you notice I haven't mentioned these secondary guns yet, and that's because these are not great. Firstly, the ammo they use is frag. Frag got very badly nerfed. Well, not badly, it's not as OP as it used to be. And you'll notice the damage of these things is not great, and this is an unfused shell. So, no inertial fuse, so it just bounces off armor, and no time fuse, so it doesn't explode near a target. So it's pretty bad, not a good shell at all, especially at this size. It does very little damage. And you'll notice also... Well, darn it, I didn't mean to do that. Over here. So notice as well, it has lots of exposed AI components. These physical connectors are made of toffee. Well, they're made of taffy. 75 health, armor 1. Compare that to the AC of the sensors, 315. So whenever possible, it's fine with having sensors exposed because you need them exposed, but AI connectors, do not. These are way too fragile to ever be exposed to naked air. So do not do that. Same with the receivers. Pathetic health and armor. They get destroyed really easily. And also, what on earth? That is very tiny shelled. But yeah, so also just this is a deck gun. It's not a good idea, especially when it's got volatile ammunition. And frag is the most volatile ammunition there is. It's too many eggs in one basket. These are a lot of sensors on them, lots of AI components, and just explodey. And it's not good. So these things might as well not be here. They don't really do anything anymore, and they're just a huge weak point. So, not a good idea. This craft is also quite material hungry, so if I turn off materials, let's see, it's not using any right now, but the split second, say an invulnerable marauder turns up, you'll notice it starts burning through materials quite quickly, and that's because it's got a steam engine. It's got a big steam engine, as a matter of fact. So you see in here, got a big honking steam engine, and I believe a lot of ammo processors as well. Somewhere. Oh, dearie me, you got hit. Marauder, stop doing that. So yeah, big steam turbine engine. It's actually got... These are huge steam engines. They're very big. And... Are there ammo processors? There aren't any. Interesting. But yeah, so, this is probably overkill for a craft of this size. You do not need steam engines like this. This is a bit much. And you also know it's burning through materials very quickly. And not a good thing. It does have surge protectors though, that's a good thing. And it is set to, yeah, it is set to control them with ACVs, but a 60% burn rate. Let's see how fast this is burning. Where's the controller? Where's the controller? Am I crazy? Where is it? How did he manage this? There's no controller on this thing. Do you not need one? Am I a crazy? I think I'm crazy. Oh well, so yeah, material hungry. And you'll notice the shields are flickering. And that's because this thing actually lacks full power for its shields. And shields are pretty bad to begin with. And when they flicker like this, it's because they actually don't have enough power for it. Like, at all. So yeah, it's got a material-hungry steam engine, and at the same time, it doesn't have enough power. So that needs a rework right there. Fuel engine is probably a better way to go. Even an injector engine would do the trick better. And what else? Transparent clips. And I know some people are going to get bugged by this. On the guns, you'll notice that the clips are the transparent version. And the one advantage of these, apart from being able to check inside them to see how many shells you got left, is that they are lighter. So if we go in here and go to the clips, and you see for the 1 meter clip, these are 2 meter clips, sorry. So this health is 250, armor 7, weight 10, and the solid version is health is 250, armor 8, weight 20. So what is the difference? So benefit of this is that they're lighter, basically. That's the only pragmatic consideration. With the solid clips, they are better armored, and that actually really helps at last second. That extra 1 armor, I think it helps a lot. And APS components tend to be very heavy anyway, so, like, I never really see this as a downside. And also, they save performance, because when you're... I've mentioned this many times before. When your PC has to render the shells before they're even fired, that takes memory. So you're more likely to have a slow-running game if you use a lot of these transparent clips. So, not the best idea. They're good for testing, just to see which... I don't know, to see the order of which autoloaders load into the gun first and all that. But for actual practical purposes, don't do it. Also, I just noticed this. Interesting. I didn't know you could do this. Wait, no. No. Okay, I thought I was tripping balls and seeing 2 intakes on 1 clip. But, yeah, so... yeah. Anyway, transparent clips. We've mentioned the barrel thing. Exposed sensors. I think, yeah, I've talked about that already. This thing already has a bit of a jaunty lean on it as it's driving around. Probably the reason for the wood right here. So I've mentioned the exposed sensors. Missiles. So, I mentioned it's a good thing this thing has missiles. These missiles need some tweaking. They have no guidance systems. They have no APN guidance or target protection guidance. And frags on small missiles are a little bit underwhelming. They're decent against soft targets, but honestly, the best use for these is... I tend to find that explosives work a little bit better, so... You go here, there's got 10 fragments, each doing about 1200 damage. Explosive, 990 HE is pretty decent if you're going to saturate something. And yes, some people might disagree with me on that, but I don't know, that's fine. It has a regulator though, that's a good thing. But yeah, it needs a guidance system. It needs zing, it needs spice. So you've got the meat and potatoes of the missile, that you need to add something like APN guidance, something like this. And you'll notice this thing is fresh out of ammo. And this, I think, is because of the updates, because admittedly these are small missiles, so that would have been fine. APS uses way more ammo than it used to, so I'm just guessing that this craft was designed with the old values for APS ammo in mind, rather than the new ones. Like, and fair enough, really. But yeah, you need way more ammo now for something like this, and you need ammo processors as well. It could be fixed with an upcoming update. Basically, that's going to make it so that ammo regeneration is a thing, that you can carry way more ammo. But it'll probably help something like this, and it just shot itself with the disruptor gun. Naughty, naughty. Also, APS Tetris, I believe I mentioned already, is terrible. You do not want square APS Tetris, like, ever. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Always try and make it so your APS turret is, at the very least, a diamond, and I tend to do that simply because it's nice and easy, it's brainless. So long as you have the extremities 3 blocks wide, the points of them, you're fine, the thing will be able to turn. And the more circular you make it, the more space efficient it is, because these are space inefficient, and like they've got gaps in them, which is not good at all. It's like this thing could be way more compact, could be way smaller, and that's something to work on, I guess. And not all turrets are armored, mentioned that. And updates, yeah, it's a problem. So I'm gonna go back to the main menu. I'm gonna see if the Roanapur can take on 2 Jackals. Because that's basically all I have to say about them. They're like, I would put these, if I was gonna be very blunt, as like apprentice-level vessels. Like, when they were built, and keep in mind, they were built some time ago, StickWhiskers and Zod, as in Z02D2. What a name! What a name that is. They're figuring it out, and they're getting there. But yeah, still some things to work out, and that's fine. We've all been there. And for hell, like a lot of us are still there. Like, you ask me about breadboards. Go on, I dare you. Ask me, and I will respond with an overwhelming, I don't know. So yeah, that's where I'm with that. So let's just sign off with these. I kind of like, and whether I like these ships, I do like, if I had to choose between them, I do prefer the Roanapur, because I like, just like the shape of it. Like, from looking from the top or the side, I like this hull shape. I tend to do it myself a lot. But, yeah, like, really do like the anchors, though. The anchors are a good thing. A little bit of clipping there, but is that a mimic? I really should have checked that. Oh well. But in any case, we're gonna leave these two shooting. Ah, no, sorry. I was meant to see if the thingy-me-wobby Jackals could take this on. Another Jackal. 500. And let's make them have Onyx Watch colors, because Onyx Watch has sexy colors. Sexy, I say. So we go here, and where you go, guys. And you just shot yourself, you silly goose. Oh no, these guys are gonna collide. Don't do it. Don't do it. You have so much to live for. Oh, there's my phone. Hold on. Wrong number! That was annoying. So, any case, ye gods, like, this review has been all over the place. Alright, if you two collide, I'm going to cry. I will do it. Don't do it. Don't make me cry now. Why are you sailing like that? Come on, guys, you're winning. Oh, you're not gonna collide. Oh, look at you! Look at you! Wait, oh wait, are they gonna bash butts? What are you doing? Wow. Yeah, like, if the Jackal actually lands shots, it works pretty well. And also, this is not a fair fight, at all. Oh boy. So yeah, sorry Zod that you had to see this. Sorry the world you had to see all this. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Support me on Patreon if you like, it really helps. Thank you to all my current Patreon supporters. And I will see you next time in From the Depths Subscriber Craft Review. Farewell.